Nobody's walking off the show over Backrooms, that's for sure.
No one's doing that shit. Hello, friends and listeners. We have a brand new episode of Watch Skip Plus. We want to be your go-to source for insightful and pop-cultured movie reviews. If you have not seen the tag, we hope you did. This is the spoiler discussion of the very dreamy Kane Parsons Backrooms from A24, 21 Laps and Atomic Monster. So if you've not seen our spoiler-free episode, you're definitely going to want to check that out. We talked about the origins of Backrooms itself and also Kane and the fun things that he does with visual effects and music. So definitely check that out and then come back because we're going to spoil the shiz-azz out of 2026's Backrooms. So we talked about in the spoiler-free episode about how this was very on-the-nose trauma-based horror, which we've sort of bemoaned because after the success of Smile, it seemed that all horror went trauma-based, right? And to be sure...
We'll go back to the Babadook. That's really where it started.
The Babadook. What did they call that? Elevated horror. So basically, elevated horror just means trauma-based, folks. Okay? Yeah. Which, when done well, is effective, right? Mm-hmm. But here, what we find out is that Chiwetel Ejiofor's character is an architect. His marriage has failed. There is some drinking involved. When I saw that there were all those stop signs when he first entered, I thought for sure we were going to find out that he killed somebody in a DUI, and that's why his wife left him. But no, it's just the boring, he was working so much and then drinking to take the stress off that his wife was sort of like, well, you know, whatever. And so he's in therapy because now he is working at a dead-end furniture store with a millennial who just does crossword puzzles or whatever, and nobody comes into the store. But in his therapy session with Renata Rinsva, there is a sort of role playing that he does, and he gets all kind of crazy. He's like, you know, I am an architect, blah, 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 blah. And clearly there's trauma that he has not been working towards in the therapy, right?
Yeah. And I think he's an owner of the store, by the way. I don't think he works there. I think he owns it.
He bought it. You're right.
Yeah.
I think he did. Which sort of begs the question, a divorced architect doesn't work for another firm. He just decides to buy a furniture store.
Probably thinks it is an easy way to make some money. Maybe he got a good deal on it. I'm sure something. But again, there's not a lot of back thought into the logic.
There's not a lot of logic into what sets up the back rooms. So then he discovers the back rooms. There is a weird thing where the electrician comes in, and I don't know about you, but I kind of laughed. This is very Lynchian, where he goes to the breaker thing, and then the two switches are offset like at the bottom. Like it looked like a prank, like somebody had like pasted it on there, right? And then they use it and then nothing happens, right? But anyway, not only does he have his backstory, but she has her backstory as well. It's not as fleshed out, but what did you think about this dime store psychology and trauma behind these two characters as executed in the film?
So basically, it's a toxic relationship between the two of them. I feel like right off the bat that we're shown that she's not really equipped, I think, for his case and many others because of her past traumas she had. She was either neglected or left by a mother who had some, I don't know if it
mental
was
health issues.
Mental health issues of some sort, schizophrenia, it might have been alluded to, of some sort. So I think that she might be thinking that when she meets Clark's character that he's struggling from schizophrenia like her mother. But I think what they're trying to do and what we're probably going to find out is that her mother also probably is somehow was sucked into the back rooms. So I imagine that's probably where they're going to lead it to, is that she was driven crazy by entering and exiting the liminal spaces of the back rooms, which we find out basically when you enter the back rooms that it takes pieces of your trauma and your memories and makes those memories real. But what do we know about memories is they're scattershot, they're jumbled up, they're strange and weird. And so a lot of what we're seeing is jumbled up stuff. Like when he first walks in, it's a lot of the furniture that we'd seen throughout the store kind of smashed together, glued together, sunk into the floor or protruding out of the floor in some situations.
Or upside down, or exaggerated. You've got like the long cupboard dresser that stretches the length of the hallway. Yeah.
Again, perception, the way that our brain perceives things through memory is what he's trying to hint at, is that this room, the space somehow recreates parts of your memory, specifically things that are involved with trauma. And that kind of opens up the door. We do know that Duplas works for this company that somehow has also discovered this space and is monitoring it. Of course, to try to make money off of it, I'm sure. But they're monitoring it for to see what's happening, because the intro shot is someone who works for, is it ACO or something?
I think it's called Async.
Async or something.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
And it's kind of unclear of whether they are documenting it or attempting to map it, or if they themselves open the portal. So that's the intriguing sort of like last portion of the film.
Duplas kind of explains that it was like they stumbled upon it, and now they're focusing on trying to figure out what it is and why it's doing, because I think they're trying to make money off of it. This could only work being set when it's set in 1990 without film like being where it is now. It really works best using the VHS and no cell phones and stuff like that. And it's crazy that this kid was able
20
to
years old and he's talking about VHS. Like what?
Recreate the 90s in such a way. Again, it's him hiring the right people and the money people behind him, really bringing in the folks that knew what it looked like. But gosh darn it, there's times where this looked straight out of the 90s. And I know we're in a 90s boom where everybody is wearing clothes. Mom jeans are back in style. The Tina Fey commercial where they're making fun. Those styles are popular now with young youth. So I thought that stuff really, really worked, the way that they painted the world of the 1990s. But again, you get stuck into this yellow world, which is at times creepy. You have things going on in the shadows. But again, those are the dark sides of your brain. And yes, they have a toxic relationship. And I don't feel like the role playing that they are doing was helping. And I feel like she really stepped into a mess here. I really find like films about psychoanalysis really interesting, but this one just didn't work. It seemed like she was really pushing boundaries, like the way that they were doing some of these recreations of this big fight that gets recreated 2 times, which we didn't need that same fight to be recreated twice. Once in the actual space and then another time in the Backrooms. It didn't work for me. And you could tell that maybe he's kind of saying that it almost seems like it's anti-psychotherapy and anti-therapist is what I felt like.
So, you know what? It's interesting that you went there with the sort of like ethical bent of her trying to help him. But the thing about mental health is that sometimes you don't click with a therapist. And the therapist is only human themselves with their own trauma, which try as you might, you can bring that to a session. And you're right. When they do the role playing, it does elicit his emotional response to it, which we know is the big problem. And then that gets fleshed out in, the back rooms. He literally says, I cannot help you, right? This is where you are. And it's sort of like, I don't think it's anti-therapy. I think it's just, you can only go so far in a mental health therapy space without having the subject or the client meet you halfway, right? Because there's all the things that you can do to try to guide them and let them see the insight. But if they're not willing to change, nothing's going to happen, right?
True.
And I think if that had been fleshed out a little better, that it would have worked. But
Clark isn't likable as a character. Like, he's a piece of shit, misogynistic, like, asshole. And I think that's another thing that made it hard for me to latch onto a character that the more you find out about him, the less you like him and the less likable he is. And you just realize he's an alcoholic, angry person who's a little bit of a misogynistic asshole, which I think is kind of what the 1990s had a lot of, dads like that. Dads that were not around. 1990s dad who was so worried about image and not doing what he thought he should be doing. And everybody, and again, I love that in the end, she's like, you are a fucking you are a misogynistic hypocrite. And in the end, you are the problem, but it's in your mind, everything else is the problem, but you.
Yeah.
He's a narcissist. So that's what we find out and in the end, we're following a narcissist, and the Backrooms is creating this narcissist world, which is nothing but cluttered, insane, gross looking 1990s furniture just clumped together. And that's kind of to show his failure, that he looks at himself as a failure. And the way that everything kind of comes and builds together, it looks like the architecture that he like draws, the way that it's very cubal, like cube shapes stacked on top of each other. So again, he's created this space of the Backrooms, which it'll be cool to see what they do in the future. We're going to get sequels. So I hope that they take the concepts of the looks and dive deeper in it. I'd love to know more about what's going on with Duplas and his family and what this is doing to him. I think maybe we can turn him into the lead character. Maybe that's what they're doing. There's things that I'm interested in because of the lore, but we really need some help with this fucking screenplay. We really do need someone to come in and write the dialogue that's not Kane Parsons. Unfortunately, the dialogue needs to be, like we say, you got to go through that script. You got to hone in that script. You can have all the ideas and the wonderful vision of creating this world, but if you have your character spouting out a bunch of bullshit over and over again, it just doesn't really feel real. And a lot of this felt more like trauma exposition than it did real characters communicating. It didn't feel like a real session. This has felt like what, unfortunately, I hate to say it, what a 20-year-old thinks that therapy is like.
Yeah, that's the other thing. There's a really great sequence where he tries, after telling Renata about this, and she's sort of like, are you crazy? Do you need medication? Which, that's a therapist kind of thing. Yeah. Like, are you having a psychotic break because you're not making sense, right? Mm-hmm. But then he drags in the employee and the employee's boyfriend, who's also very cute. And they record going into the back rooms. Now, the problem with that sequence is we've already gone through Ejiofor having his reveal of going through the wall and what is this place? And then we have to see it again from the point of view of these kids. I was just like, keep it moving. But a lot of that found footage sequence works because then a monster is revealed and then the poor boy gets like taken, right? I think one of the best tense sequences in the film.
Yeah, it's easily the scariest sequence of the whole movie.
Oh, yeah. Also, there's a cardboard cutout that has like a recording, but when he goes into the basement where there's all those piles of clothes, the cardboard cutout is back there and it looked like a head was sitting in there, but then there was no sting or anything. You just see it.
And none of that makes sense. Why is it spouting out a bunch of Japanese? Like, it's not really explained. So
basically it was, hello, how are you doing, in all the languages. So, okay. And the only reason why I know that is because Ohio, o genki desu ka, is in Japanese, hi, how are you doing? But then you also hear Farsi, you hear all these other languages.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if that was because maybe as an architect, he was working with foreign clients. I don't know. Not a lot of it is explained, right? But that sequence, it works because then he's tethered to a rope a la Poltergeist and he goes down one of the slopes or whatever. And then the monster comes out, which I guess I've seen stills of like a mechanical monster. I think that's what it is. But this force that takes him and the girlfriend, it appears to be shoring up places where people are creeping into the back rooms, which is maybe why he took them. Because there's another sequence where they're taken, and I think they're just dropping them because he can hear her behind like a pool wall, like, come find me, come take me, or whatever. And then somebody picks up the camera. That was also kind of scary too, right? But I you know, back to what you were saying about this is a 20-year-old sort of nightmare about what is my future life going to be like? Am I going to be dead-ended and not able to follow my passion like Chiwetel? Or, you know, is what happened to me and my parents going to haunt me for the rest of my life like the therapist? But that's a very young person's view of it, right? And I think that, like you said, had there been a skilled writer, an older writer, they could have really brought it full circle for not just a young crowd, but you know, an older crowd. Now, some of the visuals are really great, like the Escher stuff. She's trying to run away from the monster, who we'll get to, and then she comes out into this space where it's all like, it looks like a big hole has just been drilled through the rest of the entire universe, and she's looking down, and then there's like this stairwell to like a door in the ceiling. I really loved the way that looked. But here's the other
of Labyrinth. You remember Labyrinth?
Yeah, totally. But here's
we had like stairs upside down and stuff.
Oh yeah, and then like David Bowie is like, ooh, he like he's walking
away.
Anyway,
but it's been codpiece. Boom.
Yes. But here's the thing. If something is chasing you, why are you climbing slowly up the stairs to go? I'm like, come on, final girl. Like, really, right? But here's the other problem with the film. As much as the visuals are cool, the forced perspective, the Alice in Wonderland, eat me and get bigger kind of thing or whatever, it wears its welcome out. Because halfway through the movie, I'm like, if this is all it's going to be, I'm like, I'm already bored, right?
Spending like 90 minutes of an hour and 50-minute movie in those drab yellow walls of the back rooms.
And then looking around, like,
it's really hard to keep your interest, because as cool as it is in like a 10-minute chunk, being stuck in those drab yellow rooms, it might scare some. I found it just boring.
Yeah. I mean, it's cool for the first 20 minutes.
Yes,
right?
It is.
And then
you're like, ooh, this is so like all the worst parts of the 90s, the way things looked and felt back then, all the worst parts of it smushed in your face. But at the same time, it does feel just, again, like you're just overstaying your welcome. You said it perfectly.
Yeah.
We didn't need to spend that much time in the back rooms. And I know sometimes we complain that you're too much in the real world, but in this, I felt like I needed more real world. I mean, we saw Renata's character, basically seeing her traumatic family home destroyed. And she does end up taking like her handprints that her and her mother put in this home that she grew up in, where she saw what we're perceived to believe is that her mother was slowly going crazy, through isolation.
Yeah, and there's
showing sequences of maybe like covering the walls with paper, all the stuff that we see done with characters that we know may have some mental health issues.
Barricading the front door with the pile up of furniture, right? And so, you know, there's a really disturbing opening image where they're doing the handprint, and it looks like the stuff is being dumped on them directly. Did you catch that in the beginning? It looked like it was being dumped overhead of them, but it was just the collision of her memory and her reality. She was watching her home being bulldozed. I thought immediately that was really interesting, but he doesn't do anything with it. In
the YouTube lore, they try to link this to Better Call Saul, which we find out Saul's brother also tatters his room and has schizophrenia, who was once a lawyer. So there's like
I don't need.
There's this whole world of the lore being tied into the Breaking Bad universe, and that his brother actually went through a Backrooms, and that's why he's the way he is. And then it links to the fact that her mother most likely also was affected by the Backrooms. Again, that's all just internet rumors. No. It's silly.
Although Bob Odenkirk and his feet, yeah, sure. But when we see her trauma and we see the furniture barricaded and stuff like that, First of all, we don't need to see her going through the goddamn Backrooms entry. I'm like, I went through this already with 3 other characters. I don't need to see her like, going through a wall. Oh my God. I think that when Chiwetel is going through it, he is also seeing some things that are related to her memories. I can't say that for sure. I may have to see it again. And what I think is interesting is that, yeah, she goes in there, but she also sees the remnants of his stuff because apparently the Backrooms remembers you and makes you part of it. But what I thought was kind of cool was maybe the idea of a shared trauma universe where everyone in the world, their traumas get dumped into this universe. I think what was happening was that they were able to see each other's traumas in the back room. I think that that's what's being teased, is that we're all sort of connected. We're all interconnected as humans. Yep. And this Backrooms is maybe the collective traumatic universe of everyone on the planet. Like, I think that is an interesting concept, but it doesn't really go anywhere.
And once stuff she like enters, it then starts to pick from her trauma.
From her, her memory and trauma and stuff like that.
Yes.
Yeah. And so
did you see the little, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. Did you see the little link to Poltergeist and its liminal space? That was kind of on the nose as hell. And again, we've seen that stuff like going in and out of a liminal space and that before. So
but
many
instead,
things where
they're coming out of the floor. And I'm like, come on now. You know, and then the rope and all of that, like just pull and
trying to be clever and funny. And when I saw it, I was like, oh gosh, okay, this kid is he's a really talented kid. He's not quite there yet, but he's really talented. And I think that's what the big takeaway is.
Well, speaking of 20-year-old, you had mentioned, you know, that he thinks that he's maybe smarter than he is on his take on psychology and trauma. So at the end of the film, Ejiofor's character basically turns a little sinister because it's almost as if Parsons had sort of Googled shadow work and was like, I'm going to put that in here. So what we come to find out is that in a way he's made friends with his demon, which is what we call shadow work, right? And so this big, huge, scary black pirate is basically, you know, his darker self, and he's made friends with his darker self, and he has basically resigned himself to living in the back rooms. And so there's this whole scene where I believe that's his wife who has like this weird structured face. That's where I got the Silent Hill stuff, because she looked like one of the nurses, right? And then there's a white man who I assume is the stepfather who never liked him at the dinner table, and he's tied her up. And this is where we get that whole you're a victim, you keep blaming people, you'll never move on if you don't let this stuff go. But it's so weird because he's like, I'm just gonna live here. Like, I like it here inside my own reality. And then there's that weird thing where he's like, oh, these people, the Backrooms remembers you in a certain way, but it's also altered. And he's like, and you can eat them. And then he opens this big guy's shirt, and then he takes out his belly, and it's like this white, like fluffy coconutty kind of thing.
Looks like styrofoam with honey on it or something.
I kept being like, here's your piece of daddy meat or whatever. Like, it was just, and then there's the weird midget guy with the lights, and I was like, oh, Twin Peaks, there we go.
It was the dancing Peaks. Yes.
The dancing like little person in the lodge or whatever. So he ends up obviously embracing his dark, sinister self. She tries to escape, and then we get this crazy, am I in the back rooms or am I back in reality sort of chase. Again, if they had cut the rest of that stuff, I think all of that would be more impactful. But then you're just kind of like, okay, Alice is escaping Wonderland after the Mad Hatter chases her.
It's a mess. It is a mess.
Do you want to talk about the final ending, like the sort of teaser after Duplas talks to her, what we then see?
So basically, after all is said and done, we find out that she is stuck in the back rooms in a state of almost like the wife with the red hair whose face was almost like an image stuck in chunky lo-fi. Her face is all chunked up, and she's stuck there forever and all eternity. I don't know exactly what that's supposed to say.
So here's the thing. Because remember, folks, we can get our endings wrong, okay? But I think she got out of it, but I think that the Backrooms, I don't think she's stuck there. I think she got out of it. I think.
Why did it show her sitting there? I guess it could be that she's still a memory. Yes. A piece of, like I don't know, like a clone, because that's what they do. Like a memory, maybe still left there. I think it
created,
but I felt like it was
space
supposed to be that she was stuck there. That's what it was meant to be.
Maybe that part of her psyche might be stuck there, or that it's her trauma of remembering the Backrooms, maybe. But like, I just saw that as the Backrooms remembered her, and now that clone, distorted Renata, is now part of the Backrooms universe. But again, like, I feel like they could have really done this whole collective trauma universe thing, because the way that the furniture is stacked up, it dovetails with the furniture stacked up that the mom does to block the home. And so I was like, oh, but is that like their shared experiences? Because maybe they share that in therapy.
Everything from that we've seen is
of the
in
two
the Backrooms. Yes,
comes together.
Whether it's her home that gets destroyed, and then the store itself becomes part of the Backrooms. So all these things are becoming part of the Backrooms, and that's just going to continue to grow and build as people enter into that. And I think that's what we're going to see more of. But at the same time, we didn't see any of that with those the red shirts that they threw in there, which kind of shows that their lore doesn't really work. Or maybe it's because they didn't have trauma.
Been fleshed out.
Or maybe it's not strongly embedded enough within who they are, so it didn't have enough trauma to build off of who they are. I don't know. I guess we're going to get more of this. I don't know if I really want it. I'm sure I'll watch it just because we know this is going to become part of the zeitgeist, and part of what we love is pop culture, and that's what this is. This is a pop cultural moment. Right now, 2026, between Obsession and this, is a pop culture moment that we have not seen before, and this will go down in history, I think, as a year when YouTube
filmmakers through.
Yeah, and we're going to see this happen more and more people are going to try to get their movies made. Iron Lung guy Mark Plyer just dropped his movie on YouTube, which I haven't seen. I hear it's very similar to this, very slow walking, prodding that ends with a body horror finale. But I don't know. It's not really my thing.
I may have to check that out. And, we do have another phrase on Watch Skip Plus, and this was born from the Super Mario Brothers movie and then our review of Minecraft. And that phrase is, this movie wasn't made for us. And Five Nights at Freddy's. I don't think this movie was made for us, but just... ostensibly looking at the film itself, there's a lot of promise there, but it's still kind of a skip. If he had gone to film school, or had asked more professionals maybe to look at his shorts and see how he's evolving as a filmmaker, because if all you listen to are YouTube comments as a YouTube filmmaker, but you're not getting the ear of established professionals, right? In fact, I think this is what screwed Chris Stuckman, was that he listened too much to some of those people. And I think that his original idea for Shelby Oaks became more commercial and then ended up being kind of a failure theatrically, right? But this is the opposite. Like, I think that for these YouTube filmmakers going forward, have other established directors and professionals look at your stuff, right? Yeah. Enter a dialogue and be like, Steven Spielberg, will you look at my shitty 20-minute short and tell me what I'm doing wrong here and help me? Because if you only listen to YouTube comments, you're not going to grow as a filmmaker.
Well, Stuckman had Flanagan, so maybe he shouldn't have listened to Flanagan.
Well, but I think there was other interventions. Again, if you look at the special thanks at the end of Shelby Oaks, there's a ton of other filmmakers. And I was like, okay, who were you listening to who fucked up this project?
The reality, though, is Backrooms is a lot more Shelby Oaks than it is Obsession or Bring Her Back or any
I hate to say it. I hate to say it. On the one side of YouTube filmmakers, we've got the Philippou brothers, we've got...
Shanks from
Curry
Together,
Barker, Shanks, and then on the other side, maybe Markiplier, Parsons, and Chris Stuckman. So, skips for both of us, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is a skip. But We want you guys to tell us if we're wrong. And if we're wrong, please tell us. Please, whether it's on Spotify, whether it's on YouTube, leave us a message. Tell us that we're wrong.
Yeah.
Tell us that we're just ageist idiots and we don't understand the youth culture. Because maybe we don't.
Oh
we
my
would like
God,
to understand more.
I'm so afraid of being called ageist. I don't want to be ageist.
I don't want to be either.
I am happy for Kane.
Yes.
And the other thing about the comments too is that we haven't dove into the Backrooms lore. We don't know the lore, so we're judging the movie itself. And so in the comments, I kind of want to stay away from, well, in the Backrooms YouTube, this is what they did. Let's talk about the movie itself. I just don't think that it was not entirely successful in what it wanted to do.
But let us know. That's the point
Yes,
let us know
please.
what you think. Critique us. Or maybe you agree. I know, Sam, we know you agreed. Sam, you're right. Yeah. I saw his little post. He's the same way. He didn't quite get it. And I think that's how a lot of folks maybe, again, I don't want to be ageist, but it seems like there's definitely those over 30 and those under 30 seem to like it under 30 more than those over 30. So maybe.
Yeah, it's definitely a bit polarizing. So who knows? Yeah, Randy
Who
called
knows?
it Skinamarink. Skinamarink
Yes.
2.0. There you go. Anyway. All right, folks. So that's it. What are we reviewing next week, actually?
Next week is He-Man or Scary Movie. Again, how do you really review a comedy?
Yeah.
Like, we don't usually review them because they're so subjective. It's so hard. Some people find things funnier than others. It's just a hard thing to review.
It's like reviewing The Naked Gun, right?
Yeah.
It's
you could break down the jokes.
There you go.
I laughed because this joke did this, I guess.
Right.
But again, with what we do, which is breaking down spoilers and diving deep, you can't really do that with comedy. So I think, like you said, we will be doing He-Man.
Yeah, I think so too. Besides which, speaking of dreamy, what's his face? Nicholas Galitzine is in it, and then the lady that plays Tila's kind of hot too. Camilla, I forget her name. Anyway. Okay.
Well, you got, what's her name from Riverdale?
Riverview.
Yeah, Riverview.
Riverdale. Yeah. Camilla. I want to say it's Camilla Mendez, but isn't that a singer? I don't know. See you guys on the other side. Parting thoughts, Mike, Markiplier. I'm sorry.
Markiplier. We're YouTubed. We've been
I'm
YouTubed.
in the back rooms. I'm hosting
stuck.
with a clone. I don't know who this is
damn
next
yellow
to me.
shirt. It's that yellow shirt. Got me staring at yellow for an hour.
Hopefully this becomes a little more relevant when Adam Wingard's movie comes out in September. So we'll see.
But as always, parting thoughts. Get out there to the movie theaters. Celebrate live screenings. Man, Repo the Genetic Opera was at my Regal. Every screening sold out. That's freaking cool to me. I love this kind of stuff.
I want to be in a live version of Repo the Genetic Opera. That is one of my favorite musicals.
I hope that proves to folks that people want to see these kind of movies on the big screen, because and I've heard it everywhere. If you go to the Reddit for Regal, they were like, screenings all over the country are selling out of Repo the Genetic Opera, which I kind of dig that.
I love that movie. Paris Hilton is in it, folks, and it doesn't suck. So there you go.
It doesn't suck. It really doesn't. I wish I would have got to it, but I didn't.
Yeah, good stuff. And as always, be kind, be open, be vulnerable. That's where the art is, and we'll see you all next week. Thank you.
See ya.